pas ça, il a autant d'importance.
Down inside that. I don't know what it looks like.
No.
But
the dog was $7.50. The vet bill was $93, and lost wages.
On the
important to keep working too.
Yeah,
if you're making
true.
money.
That's true.
You didn't think of that?
No, I just thought it'd be best if she was out trying to find a
Okay,
job.
$50 for lost wages for one day. What else?
Also, the idea of what the boys themselves and myself went through, because I had to personally put the dog
You're
to sleep.
talking about emotional distress
Yes.
for yourself. You
Yes.
personally had to do what?
I had to put the dog to sleep. At 5 o'clock in the morning, I placed it in a plastic bag and I suffocated the dog.
Oh. I wish you hadn't told me that. It's just,
Well, that's the truth.
well, sir, I'm not denying it's the truth, but who has to hear how you put the dog to sleep? It's so unnecessary. All right, so you want your own emotional distress and the children's emotional
Yes,
distress.
sir. And I also have something that my boy wrote to prove emotional distress.
Except I don't care what he wrote. I know that he was distressed. But you can't get emotional distress for loss of personal property. That's what a dog is.
Okay.
So I don't even want to read it because I believe the child was upset. I do believe it. I do believe you were upset. The law won't give you that.
I see.
Your Honor,
Yes, sir.
this parvo is very contagious, and it's very unlikely that two puppies or one puppy would contract it.
When they closed in, then I have to go in through the statute. We're going up on top.
Send you to a dermatologist.
No.
For DFLers filtering into Duluth today, it was a day of preparation and registration. But the pace picked up when the doors were opened for supporters armed with posters of their favorite candidates decorating the Duluth State Convention Center. Preparations were also underway at the Duluth Depot for Saturday's free food and drink party for 3,000 Friends of the DFL given by Mark Dayton.
The neat thing is we're using all Duluth people and facilities and food. We're using the train depot here in Duluth. We're using the Chinese Lantern to cater it. We're using magicians, mimes, and jugglers from Duluth. We're using a 10-piece swing band from Duluth. Mark Dayton really has a fond feeling of Duluth because, of course, he was endorsed here 4 years ago.
More than 1,300 delegates and up to 3,000 total DFL backers will convene at tomorrow morning's call to order, conducting the business of endorsing candidates, selecting party officers, and tending to the party platform. And Party Chair Ruth Esla says the convention may run smoother this year than in the past.
It's a different kind of convention just because in the past we've always had some battles somewhere down the line for some of the major positions, and this year we really don't. It's the Democrats have kind of taken a step back, have decided they want to go out there, they want to win, and this convention needs to be the launching pad for it. In order to do that, we've got to come out unified with a single message to deliver to the people of Minnesota, and we're going to do that.
One area DFLers have already achieved party unity since the 1982 convention is their party reconciliation with Governor Rudy Perpich. Perpich and Lieutenant Governor Marlene Johnson are expected to be the first candidates given the official endorsement tomorrow. Janet Carvin, Channel 3 News.
Therefore, the chair declares that Governor Perpich and Lieutenant Governor Johnson are the endorsed candidates for governor and lieutenant governor of this convention.
When the final ballot was in, the Perpich-Johnson ticket had claimed 72% of the ballots, easily attaining the required 60% for the endorsement. In his acceptance speech, Perpich spoke of his pride in the party, the state, and of his term in office.
I have personally spent every working day of the past 3 years in an effort to secure jobs for Minnesotans and to ensure a measure of prosperity for every Minnesota family.
And while Perpich stole the primary from DFL-endorsed Warren Spanis in 1982, shunning the endorsement process, he says now, as an incumbent, the endorsement has given him confidence.
I think it was the vote on the record. I really do. I said earlier, I think the public, and that's why I feel so confident about the primary. I think it's the same thing. That what happened here will happen in that primary. I really do. The folks here, you know, I think that they feel he's done a good job and he works hard and he's working in the best interest of the state. That's what it's all about.
Reminiscent of the 1982 DFL convention in Duluth, more than 1,300 delegates will pack the Arena Auditorium Friday through Sunday, endorsing candidates for constitutional offices, electing party officers, and tending to the party platform. But this time around, no major battles are expected within the party.
We hope to come out of the convention with a unified message to bring to the people of Minnesota that the DFLers at the top of the ticket have done an excellent job putting the state back on track, and that we deserve a chance to continue to keep Minnesota on track in the next 4 years.
Preparations were underway at the arena and at the depot, where Mark Dayton will hold a free food and drink party for up to 3,000 Friends of the DFL. A party State Treasurer Robert Mattson says will shortchange local restaurant owners who will lose part of Saturday's business.
Just the opposite is the case, and Bob doesn't know what he's talking about. The fact that we're using everybody in Duluth, all the entertainment, all the restaurants, the food, the caterers from Duluth, it's a union restaurant, union bands, and we think those charges are ludicrous.
Either way, Duluth's biggest summer convention is sure to give the city a boost, both in dollars and statewide media attention. Statewide delegates will continue to register into the evening, and tomorrow, committee meetings and the endorsement process will get underway after the convention's call to order at 10 a.m. Janet Carvin, Channel 3 News.
The State Court of Appeals holds the key to just how quickly construction on the $400 million Lake Superior paper mill can proceed, but behind the scenes, in the corporate offices of Rust Engineering in Birmingham, Alabama, engineers have just finished putting the touches on a definition model of the world-class paper mill.
purpose of it is real quick and easy action and assembly. We take all the equipment, we block form it, build it to rough dimensions, and then we put the equipment located on the model. And this is done early in the design stage. And the reason for this, it allows the engineers and designers to look at a three-dimensional representation rather than drawings and see the actual design taking shape on the model.
Ever since plans for the state-of-the-art mill were announced last fall, developers have been saying it's been on a fast track towards completion in late 1987. But just how fast that is only now becoming apparent.
We are designing while the construction is going on in the field. If we were to stop designing at any point in time, we would leave a vacuum in the field and the workforces would be without work. So fast tracking has become more and more popular recently and seems to be the only way we can really produce a job of this scope and magnitude.
Tonight at 10, we'll talk about the future of the super-calendared paper market and how the definition model will assist Lake Superior Paper Industries in breaking into that market. Jeff Potts, Channel 3 News.
It's not just a facelift, but a whole new look for the city of Ashland.
What you're seeing occur here now is going to be a lasting contribution toward the betterment of the community for decades to come.
Work to improve Ashland's Lake Superior shoreline began last summer. About half of the brush that obscured the view and access to the lake was removed. The remainder will be cleared this year, and in its place, a hikers and bikers trail that will run the length of Ashland's shoreline. As part of the WCC grant, a segment of the city's east side will also be turned into a park to include an observation deck overlooking Lake Superior.
There's so many improvements going on that in the next 5 to 10 years you aren't going to recognize Ashland.
Other major lakefront projects, apart from the WCC work, include completion of Hotel Shawamigan in September, completion of an RV campsite next month, and the building of a 25-slip marina, the construction of which could begin as early as next month. The many changes are bringing more than a new look to Ashland. They're also bringing a new sense of optimism and community pride. In Ashland, Kathleen Chalikian, Channel 3 News.
I'm going to be finishing around the 3-hour mark, but I'll be buying some beers.
For the next 3 weeks, these high school students will be living and learning like native Germans in Duisburg.
Well, I think they're going to learn a lot about the German people. We're living with the German families and going to school for 3 weeks.
Most of the students are in their first and second year German classes at East, and in class they speak both English and German. But while in Duisburg, the English language for them will be forbidden.
I think I will have a hard time understanding them, though, since I've only had 1 year. But maybe I'll pick up some of it, I hope.
The students say that by living with a German family and attending school there, they can learn more than they ever would in German classes here.
And this is more or less just being around the language all the time. You know, you're going to hear it in everyday use. It's not just going to be little drills and exercises.
Well, I can firsthand experience of what the culture is like and the language. I can learn more of the language, and I think it's just going to be lots of fun.
Final hugs among family were exchanged before boarding the bus, and the students are off for a learning experience they'll never forget. Linda Hammond, Channel 3 News.
For a few years, people wondered if the city of Duluth was ever going to get back on its feet. Businesses were leaving, and that meant people were too. From a population of over 100,000, Duluth dropped to about 92,000 in the 1980 census. But in the last 4 years, things have started to turn around.
We made a calculated decision about 4 years ago that we needed to diversify, obviously, and to take the strengths of our community and to work on those strengths, education, medical, tourism, obviously, but industry as well.
Most of the retail development has been concentrated in the Miller Hill Mall area, while those services catering to tourists remain downtown. Places like the new bingo hall, the proposed convention center, and the new multi-million-dollar bowling alley.
Tourism for us this year will be a $100 million a year business. That's a lot of people being employed. And you know, the old criticism that those are just McDonald's and Burger King jobs is not true. A lot of businesses, a lot of people are working, a lot of families are getting a paycheck.
In the past year, Duluth has seen numerous economic development projects become reality. Those, coupled with an increasing number of tourists, make one believe Duluth may indeed be finally getting back on its feet. Lisa Molaski, Channel 3 News. Normally, Willow River is a quiet town, not much activity. But ever since a local video store has been renting X-rated videos, residents have taken action.
Basically saying that a law is being broke that we want enforced. We don't want hardcore porn videos, you know, being publicly distributed in our community.
Judy Pracher has 7 children. She says the renting of X-rated movies could corrupt them.
I'm very upset about it. This is why I work so hard to try and convince these people to remove these tapes from their store. It makes it very hard to raise children to have good sound values when this kind of thing is so available in our community.
The video store has a closed-off room where about 100 X-rated videos are rented, and owners say the picketing hasn't really affected business.
Well, I think it's ridiculous. When the movies leaves our shop, it's up to the people out there who rents the movies, so little kids don't get it.
The group against pornography here in Willow River has been trying to get a conviction against the video scene since January, but attorneys say it would be almost impossible because no precedent has been set. So residents here say they will continue to picket. They say maybe someday picketing alone will rid Willow River of pornography. With photographer Dave Stokes, Linda Hammond, Channel 3 News.
Help, please, please.
Mock disasters like this one are necessary for emergency training.
By doing this, everybody knows what they should do when we have a real disaster, if we have a real disaster. We hope we never do, but we like to be ready for it.
Emergency crews from 3 nearby hospitals, fire, police, and highway patrol departments participated in the mock disaster. Directors of the staged disaster say it's all in the hopes that if a real disaster occurred, they would be better prepared.
We're dealing with lives. You make one mistake, it could be somebody's life. And that's what the whole deal is to not make the mistakes, or else on the mock disasters catch them, so that you don't make them in a real life situation.
Emergency crews from a Minneapolis hospital also responded by helicopter, and from there, critical patients were rushed to a nearby hospital where the disaster training continues among emergency room personnel. Officials hope with disaster trainings like this, if a real one were to occur, emergency crews would be better prepared. In Spooner, with photographer Dave Stolen, Linda Hammond, Channel 3 News.
I know it's not whether you win or lose, it's how you play the game. I guess that's what he's trying to tell us.
The adage may be an old one, but for Larry Potter and Thor Sorensen, members of Central's 1971 state championship team, the way the game is played and lives are lived are the messages for the youth attending their second annual camp.
And together, as we talked over what our goals were to accomplish, we wanted first of all to reach souls for Christ, and secondly, to give these high school and junior high school kids some guidance.
The game's fundamentals are not all the young players will learn this week. Potter says teaching social and spiritual skills to meet the pressures of today's adolescent is even more important.
Camp's great. They emphasize being a team player and bringing Christ into your life, and they sort of just cut out being an individualist out here.
Potter, now an elementary teacher in Moorhead, and Sorensen, a pastor at Glad Tidings Assemblies of God Church, have, according to their campers, teamed up for another winner, the area's first Christian basketball camp.
It's real nice, to know something about God, because God is always on your side, wherever you go, no matter if you win or lose, He's on your side.
Janet Carvinen, Channel 3 News.
Bonnie, where's the keys to the truck?
These kids are trying to get some jobs either in this city or other cities, and in order to get work it's very important to have a volunteer type background, and there aren't too many places to volunteer for it, so this is their volunteer work.
It's been 95 years since Minnie Gould graduated from the St. Luke's School of Nursing. She made up the entire class of 1891. Now, the last class of nursing students is about to graduate. St. Luke's has been forced to close its nursing school because its 3-year diploma program can't compete with 4-year baccalaureate programs being offered nationwide.
So we decided that we wanted to close when we still had the choice, so we could close with quality rather than having to be forced out at some point down the road.
The Emily Payne building, where most of the classes have been held, will be put to other use by the hospital. The Hartley dorms will likely be rented to UMD. Some of the school staff will stay on at St. Luke's, but most will leave. Many of the students are disappointed.
Well, I think it was a really great opportunity to be able to come here, seeing as it is the last class, and we weren't aware of that when we started. But I also am kind of upset that we didn't have any underclassmen to see our growth from.
The students graduate Thursday and say the time spent in the classroom has prepared them well for state board exams in July.
It's probably been the hardest 3 years I've ever spent in my whole life being here, but it was really worth it.
In the future, nurses will have to be trained elsewhere. When these students pick up their diplomas, it will signal the end of an era in Duluth.
I feel very sad. This was my class, I guess, and I've spent a lot of time. I've gotten to know them as a group, and I've gotten to know them as individuals, and it's been very special to me. So it's hard for me to leave.
Kurt Ludlow, Channel 3 News.
Do you remember graduating from the tricycle to the two-wheeler and those first frightening moments trying to keep your balance? Well, biking is great fun. It's something the entire family can do together, plus it's fabulous exercise. In the Northland, as soon as the snow melts, the bikes are dusted off and taken out of the garage. We have many scenic routes to enjoy: North Shore Drive, Skyline, the Western Waterfront Trail. Bicycling, though, requires a certain amount of common sense.
Some of the most important things are to obey all the traffic signals, ride with traffic, not against traffic, and that's one of the cardinal sins that will get a lot of bicyclists killed.
Each year, approximately 460,000 people are injured in bicycle accidents, seriously enough to require emergency care. Nearly 1,000 cyclists die in accidents annually. There is one major mistake.
Bicycles are a form of transportation. They're supposed to ride with traffic for some very good reasons, because, number one, motorists don't expect bicyclists to be coming at them on the roadway, and number two, if you're coming at an intersection, if a bicyclist is coming towards the intersection and you're going to be making a right turn, you don't expect the bicyclist to be right there.
75% of the fatalities are from head injuries.
I think anytime you're in traffic and you're bicycling, that a helmet protects your head, and that's the most vulnerable part of the body in bicycle accidents. And it's been shown that because of non-wearing of helmets in accidents, that the incidence of head injuries is so much greater.
Cyclists have the same rights as the driver of any vehicle, but common sense and safety consciousness are paramount. Obey all road signs and rules, use hand signals, wear bright colors and a good helmet, and keep your eyes and ears tuned to everything around you. Hoping your summer is a safe one, this is Debbie Nerby for Channel 3 News. We have 64 state parks in Minnesota, nearly 50 in Wisconsin. There are literally hundreds of private campgrounds sprinkled throughout the two states, and there is a vast wilderness area to explore. Whether you do your camping from the comfort of a motorhome or lug those backpacks miles into the forest, there are a few basics every camper should begin with.
Basically what you need to do your camping is you got to bring your food with you, or catch it there if you're going fishing. You have to bring your shelter, be it a tent or car camper, clothing.
Most outdoorsmen stress that before venturing into the great outdoors, you should familiarize yourself with some of the problems encountered when camping. There is always the possibility of injury or illness.
Our society, people are real used to being taken care of. I mean, we have so many agencies, and we have good fire protection and police protection and ambulances. And when you're out camping, you really are on your own, and it behooves you to be careful and to be prepared by having a good first aid kit and the knowledge how to use it.
Animals, especially bears, pose a fear to campers, and yet bears are the ones which generally cause the fewest problems.
Usually it's the small animals that cause most of the problems around the campsite, getting into your food, destroying packs, chewing things up. But the rules are the same whether it's for mice or bears, and that's to keep a clean camp and to make sure that your food is hung well up in a tree.
Always let someone know your plans, so if the need for contacting you arises, it can be accomplished. And one of the biggest problems in the forest is fire. Don't toss matches into the brush, and be sure to double check that your campfire is thoroughly doused. And finally, remember, leave the campsite as you would wish to find it upon arrival.
It's their responsibility to keep the campsites clean, to pick up after themselves, and to follow the rules and regulations that are there for everybody's benefit.
Debbie Nerby for Channel 3 News.
Convenient schedules and competitive fares will be offered as American Airlines expands its operations to Duluth by August 10th. The Progressive operation is adding 3 aircraft per month to its fleet and sees future growth potential for Duluth.
Certainly with the numbers of people that they intend and must bring to the city for those huge conventions, that we'll see expansion in American Airlines beyond the number of airplanes that they're announcing today.
The service includes 3 departures and 3 arrivals each day to one of American's hubs, the Chicago O'Hare Airport, a 1-hour, 14-minute flight via 727.
But that's not the end of the story, because at O'Hare we operate a major connecting hub that opens up the rest of the American Airlines system to travelers from this area. At Chicago, we have 240 flights a day to 71 nonstop destinations.
Airport officials say their business will improve, and Mayor John Fito says the link will improve convention business for the city as well. But travelers will also be winners.
A key element of our service at Duluth will be our innovative, money-saving airfares. That includes the Ultimate Super Saver, a deeply discounted fare we introduced about 1.5 years ago that revolutionized the travel business.
American will offer their $410 round-trip ticket to Chicago for $98 with their Ultimate Super Saver flight on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And that increased competition should be good news for the consumer. With more on the impact of American's announcement today, here's Kathleen Chalikian.
The American Airlines move into Duluth in August means more convenient flights and better connections to U.S. cities and abroad. Earl Rogers, who operates 3 travel agencies in Duluth, says air travel for both business and pleasure should increase dramatically. People won't be intimidated by higher fares and extra time that now result in going through Minneapolis.
To go anywhere out of Duluth on the airlines, you go to Minneapolis, right? If we can think of Chicago instead of Minneapolis, what's open to us? The world. The world.
Rogers also says he believes the 2 other airlines now in Duluth, Republic and Northwest via Masaba Airlines, shouldn't suffer in the long run because more people flying should offset the added competition. The move by American is also good for major businesses in the area.
We have had instances where, we would like to have more air traffic availability coming and going because right now, as far as we understand, there are only 5 Republic flights coming and going, and Republic has served us well, but we really would like to have more options.
Besides greater convenience for businesses, more flights mean more time, and time is money.
Today's announcement by American Airlines is good news for area businesses and travelers in a year that's already seen very enticingly low fares. Kathleen Chalikian, Channel 3 News.
It's the kind of disaster most of us hope we never have to experience. But mock disasters like this one are necessary for emergency training.
By doing this, everybody knows what they should do when we have a real disaster, if we have a real disaster. We hope we never do, but we like to be ready for it.
In this mock disaster, a semi, a school bus, and a car have collided to set the scene. Volunteers are made up to look like actual victims of such a disaster.
No, please, please.
And nearby emergency crews respond. Meanwhile, mock disaster organizers stand by and evaluate performances.
If you make one mistake, we're dealing with lives. You make one mistake, it could be somebody's life. And that's what the whole deal is to not make the mistakes, or else on the mock disasters catch them, so that you don't make them in the real life situations.
From here, patients are taken to the hospital where the disaster training continues. Doctors there make sure procedures are followed and patients are given immediate care, just like in a real disaster. In Spooner, with photographer Dave Stolen, Linda Hammond, Channel 3 News.
You compare these two projects.
Gino Paolucci's appeal of the district court decision that gave the city title to his former Chungking plant and adjoining property was not totally unexpected. But it does raise the specter of yet another delay just when the ambitious paper mill construction schedule was shifting into high gear. The important consideration now was when the State Court of Appeals will hear the case. Attorneys representing Paolucci and the city were in St. Paul this afternoon trying to get the earliest possible date for that hearing. City officials are encouraged by the fact Paolucci's lawyers appear to be willing to expedite the matter as quickly as possible, and are hoping the Court of Appeals will also recognize that time is of the essence. Just last Friday, paper mill officials conceded a lengthy delay could still jeopardize the $400 million project.
We had discussed that if this delay were to go on through the summer, towards Labor Day, that there would come a point when everyone would have to give serious reconsideration to whether or not to build this mill. But we hadn't gotten that far along yet.
City and paper mill officials are encouraged by the fact the city did get title to the land today, allowing some preliminary site preparation work to begin on the former Paolucci property. Right now, the city still has the right to demolish the Chungking plant itself on July 12th, and officials there are still hoping the appeals court will hand down a favorable ruling before then, so the paper mill project can stay on schedule. Jeff Potts, Channel 3 News.
There used to be between 5,000 and 10,000 gulls that fed here at the Rice Lake Road landfill near the Duluth Airport. Now there are only between 400 and 500 here at any given time.
Well, a bird in the air or on the ground that contacts an airplane certainly can do some damage to it. Smaller airplanes could sustain structural damage if they were to hit a duck or some heavier type of bird.
The FAA stepped in last summer and said that the garbage that attracts the birds could no longer be dumped here, and the sanitary district had to get the masses of birds off the land. To do that, the sanitary district now only uses a site to dump refuse from construction. It also uses a kind of noise bomb called a cracker bomb to scare the birds away. Grindon says the gulls that remain pose much less of a problem than a year ago.
Well, at this point, the problem is greatly diminished. And of course, we've gone through a lot of control measures over those years to make sure that that population of birds diminishes at the airport.
Some birds are still coming back here out of habit, but a government wildlife expert who I talked to says in a few years the birds should forget what fine dining they've had here. Kathleen Chalikian, Channel 3 News. The owners of Johnny's Tavern, the Boulevard Lounge, and the Classic Restaurant and Lounge in Superior had until 4:30 this afternoon to keep their liquor licenses. Under state law, liquor licenses can't be renewed unless all liquor wholesale bills are paid. Local law requires tavern owners to pay property taxes and meet city building codes. Last night, the Superior City Council voted to renew the tavern licenses, provided the owners pay their outstanding liquor bills. The two men who own Johnny's Bar and the Boulevard Lounge must also pay outstanding personal property taxes and change their buildings to meet city codes. Mike Wells, owner of the Classic, paid his $700 in liquor bills, but thought the less than one-day deadline was unfair.
I believe that and again, I don't know for certain, but I believe the law allows until the 30th of June they have to be paid before the license is issued. And the determination was whether or not they would renew it, not just issue it.
Pat Cohen and Harvey Siegel, who own both Johnny's Bar and the Boulevard Lounge, also made it by paying up $4,700 in debts.
First of all, like I explained to the council last night on Johnny's Bar, those bills were created by a court-appointed receiver. They weren't my responsibility, but I had to run around today and...
Though the tavern owners disagreed with the deadline, they felt their extra efforts today were well worth their investments. Kathleen Chalikian, Channel 3 News.
It's been almost 10 years since Duluth has enjoyed a stimulated housing market, but thanks to a sharp decline in interest rates, bottoming out at 9% and currently slightly higher in the mid-10% range, there is more activity in real estate now than there has been in a long time.
But it certainly has picked up, and we think it'll continue from what we read as far as interest rates going, either staying the same or maybe even coming down just a tad more. We think the market will be a good market for the rest of this year and next year.
Just how much of a difference can a drop in interest rates make? Over time, thousands of dollars. For example, if you purchased a $40,000 home with a 30-year conventional loan at 10%, your monthly payments would be $237 a month. But at 13%, that same house would run you $383 a month. And so if you financed your home at 10% instead of 13%, you would, over 30 years, save $54,000. Some homeowners locked into mortgages with interest rates from 15 to 17% are understandably trying to refinance, and local lending institutions may have waiting lists of up to 1 month for mortgage applications.
Our big problem is trying to get the sales to where they will close because of all the people that are refinancing old mortgages to take advantage of the lower interest rate.
While not everyone will qualify to refinance their loans, the trends allowing more people to move out of apartments into houses and others to take a step up into a better house are positive economic indicators for Duluth. Janet Carvin, Channel 3 News.
The Indians of Great Lakes tribes listened intently and took notes, while spokespersons from the Bureau of Indian Affairs lectured on issues between the two groups.
It's more of an information exchange in regard to the things that the Bureau of Indian Affairs is doing and is planning, and the kind of things that the tribes want to see, maybe don't understand about the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and would like more clarification on.
Before workshops like these were conducted, Indians would individually go to Great Lakes headquarters to talk about concerns. But this way, problems among the tribes and the government can be ironed out collectively, and tribal members say they like the group effort.
I think they're very beneficial to the tribe and to the Bureau of Indian Affairs. It gives a working relationship with the primary goals of meeting the needs of Indian people.
It's a refresher course, like it keeps our, it reminds us, of the things that we have to do,
Basically, these 3-day workshops, which started last year in Oneida, are a learning experience. Indians can learn about management systems, forestry, and realty.
Larson says probably the most important aspects of these workshops is that the tribes and the BIA are coming together to discuss common goals, which in turn will keep communications open between them. In Ashland, Linda Hammond, Channel 3 News.
The Irvin looked almost as good as it did on the day it was launched, nearly a half-century ago. But the former flagship of U.S. Steel's ore-carrying fleet won't be hauling taconite anymore. The $245,000 worth of renovation the boat has received will be used to attract tourists to Duluth.
Well, it looks super. Compared to what it looked like when we saw it the first time around, they did just a fantastic job. I don't know how anybody can not fall in love with this. It's just great.
When the tugboats tightened their lines to move the Irvin out of dry dock, it seemed easy to imagine the boat heading out of the harbor with a full load of ore. And it's that sense of nostalgia that officials with Duluth Convention Center say will attract 150,000 visitors to the Irvin this year.
Well, we think that ore carriers have been a part of the Duluth harbor scene for, I guess, since the Duluth became a harbor. First the wood and then the steel ships, and so we think there's a great pent-up demand. We're told by people that have been in the harbor involvement for years that there's a real pent-up demand, so we think it'll be fantastic.
Future plans for the Irvin include convention meeting rooms in the hold and a restaurant for visitors. But other ore boats haven't been as lucky. For them, it's only a matter of time before they're cut apart for scrap metal. With photographers Jim Wisniewski and Jim Jagger, I'm John Schottel for Channel 3 News.
The Duluth Clinic has a parking problem. In the 10 years since its parking ramp was built, the number of patients using it has tripled to 300,000 a year. Now some patients are having to park elsewhere and walk.
Our patients right now are being very patient, but they're starting to complain, and I think, especially for older people, it's just too much of a hardship to expect them to find parking other than in the ramp.
About 3 years ago, the clinic bought the Ashtabula apartment building across the street. Now the clinic wants to raise that building and put up a parking lot. The 40 or so apartment residents would have to move.
Once again, we don't like to displace people who've lived there for a long time, but we also have our primary responsibility to our patients, and at this point we really feel we have no alternatives but to find some on-grade parking in the immediate vicinity.
Alice Rott has lived in the building for 20 years. She and the other residents are prepared to leave.
I've been expecting it for a long time, so something that happens.
The long-term solution to the parking problem would be to add to the parking ramp, but that's not expected to happen for a few years. The only short-term solution, say clinic officials, is to destroy the apartments and build the lot. The City Board of Zoning Appeals will take up the issue on Tuesday morning. If approved, work could begin by this summer to demolish the building, and by then, all the residents of the Ashtabula apartments will have to be living somewhere else. Kurt Ludlow, Channel 3 News.
Independent Republicans have been taking the independent part of their name pretty seriously these days.
I oppose this article because
Many analysts say that new opinions in the party and a strong right-wing movement could cause a split, but IR leaders don't agree.
You know, the media has tried to tell us that there's going to be a bloodbath, and what I've been saying is there's going to be a lively contest for the endorsement. And once that endorsement process is over, you're going to see the commitment to that endorsed candidate. And people are really working toward the overall goal of becoming the majority party in this state.
No matter how hard the delegates fight for the candidates of their choice, they don't plan on taking those battles out of this convention hall.
We're coming to endorse a candidate, and when we get the candidate endorsed, we're going to get behind the candidate. There's no doubt about that.
we're going to be in great shape. We're going to be united.
All of the candidates we talked to say the IR's sense of party unity is coming out of a feeling by delegates that this will be a banner year for the IR.
If they figure that they have nothing to lose, that we can't win anyway, they have these fights and end up oftentimes divided because they figure that it doesn't matter. But when they believe we can win, and I think they do this year, they have a tendency to pull together after it's all over with and get on in the best interest of winning.
In St. Paul with photographer Scott Lichtig, I'm John Schottel for Channel 3 News.
26-year-old Susan Nelmark has been deaf ever since birth. Things you and I take for granted, like answering a phone or door, have been difficult because of her disability. But Monday, Susan's life changed. She now has a hearing dog named Hero.
The dog helps her when the phone rings. And with the door.
Hero does Susan's hearing, like when there's a knock on the door. company out of Oregon called Dogs for the Deaf gave Hero to Susan. That was made possible through donations.
Basically, with a dog, they can live a normal life. They can go around the house and do what they would normally do and not worry about missing a phone call or missing a visitor.
Right now, Dogs for the Deaf supplies about 25 dogs a year for the deaf people, but Neff says the company is growing. They're constantly hiring new trainers for dogs, which in turn means more helpers like Hero will be making a deaf person's life a little bit easier. Near Ashland, Linda Hammond, Channel 3 News.
It was somewhat ironic that DFL gubernatorial candidate George Latimer and his new running mate Arvon Frazier spent the first day of their campaign against Rudy Perpich in the heart of Perpich country. But there were plenty of DFL well-wishers this morning as the new team handled questions about the political wisdom of a St. Paul mayor choosing the wife of a Minneapolis mayor as a running mate.
That if Arvon Skelton Frazier were living in Lamberton right now, there would be no question but that I want her to be my lieutenant governor. And then I decided, then why don't we go with substance instead of appearance? Why don't we go with integrity rather than merely geography?
Frazier herself is focusing on issues she's most familiar with: women's rights, education, and children.
You can't build a state unless you have good people and educated people, and I am really worried about our kids. We have too many poor kids in this state and in this country.
Tonight at 10, we'll hear from DFL party leaders who feel Latimer has made a major technical error, that Perpich's support in northern Minnesota will now carry him to a primary victory over the Twin Cities-based Latimer-Frazier ticket. Jeff Potts, Channel 3 News.
One of the key things to remember out of all of this is that probably
Last week, People magazine. Next, possibly a visit with Carson or Letterman. And it's all because of one man's dream.
I had a dream in 1960, and it took 5 years of me chasing government money, which didn't materialize. And I was a grant writer. I knew how to do it, but it just didn't work out. And I spent another 10 years knocking on doors. I figured that was the only way to do it. I tried for corporate money and whatever. I became a professional beggar, in essence.
And now visitors can stroll the 6.5-acre complex and take in what has to be heaven to an avid fisherman. There are 350 antique motors, 400 mounts of 85 different species of fish, thousands of rods, reels, lures, flies, and even plenty to keep the kids interested while you browse. The Hall of Fame came to the attention of the saltwater fishermen from Washington, and they are thinking of following suit.
This is the second day I've spent in going through his museum here and his Hall of Fame, and it's really something. I'm really amazed by it. And I think that that big fish would instantly be recognizable as the coast of Washington, and especially Westport, Washington.
It would have to be one big Chinook salmon to top this giant muskie. The fiberglass fish weighs 500 tons, is half a block long, and stands 5 stories tall at its highest point. For the folks in Westport, it is now a matter of council approval and raising the funds before work can begin on a Saltwater Hall of Fame. And as Bob Cutts knows, it is also a project which is never finished. The collecting goes on, and the fishermen keep reeling in those record-setting fish. In Hayward, Debbie Nerby for Channel 3 News.
Belknap Street, the main east-west thoroughfare in Superior, is getting a $2.5 million facelift. Construction of a 2-mile stretch between Tower Avenue and 2nd Street East began May 1st. It's scheduled to be completed November 1st. Besides slowing down traffic, the construction is also slowing down sales for businesses along Belknap, in some cases as much as 90%, according to one store owner. But some Belknap businessmen are taking steps to draw in customers during the construction. Since the construction is scheduled to last 6 months, some of the businesses here are doing special advertising. Metro Credit Union, for example, is giving away free construction hats to new customers. Also, a number of businesses have joined in sponsoring a Belle of Belknap advertising campaign, similar to Duluth's Henry Brick downtown advertising campaign.
As the construction came upon us, several of these other businesses got a hold of me, and we thought, well, gosh, let's expand this on several sides of us, a few blocks. And we'll probably go to include Hardee's down here, include Carl and M&C Gas. And when we got that far, we found other businesses saying, hey, how about us?
Those businesses along Belknap without side street parking hurt the most. Bridgman's ice cream parlor owner Jack Peterson considers himself fortunate.
Well, I think it's affected our business, but I think the end results is going to be overcome it tremendously. We're down in business quite severely, but with this nice weather and with all the activities around the area, I think it should be pretty, looking up for us.
Kathleen Chalikian, Channel 3 News.
The William Irvin is certainly no stranger to the Duluth Harbor. Since it was launched in 1938, the flagship of U.S. Steel's ore-carrying fleet has carried hundreds of thousands of tons of taconite to Great Lakes steel plants. But when the Irvin pulled out of dry dock today, it wasn't an ore carrier any longer. It suddenly turned into a tourist attraction. Starting Saturday, visitors will be able to tour the ore boat at $3.75 a head.
Well, we think that ore carriers have been a part of the Duluth harbor scene for, I guess, since Duluth became a harbor. First the wood and then the steel ships. And so we think there's a great pent-up demand. We're told by people that have been in the harbor involvement for years that there's a real pent-up demand. So we think it'll be fantastic.
In time, the Irvin will become the centerpiece of Duluth Convention Center. Future plans include meeting rooms in the hold and a restaurant for visitors. City officials say the ore boat will be the one thing that separates Duluth Convention Center from dozens of others around the country.
It looks super, compared to what it looked like when we saw it the first time around. They did just a fantastic job. I don't know how anybody can not fall in love with this. It's just great.
The Irvin is typical of straight-decker ore boats that once cluttered the Great Lakes during more prosperous times. But its fate is not typical. For most ore boats, the future lies on a scrap heap. John Schottel, Channel 3 News.
The new Duluth Central High School was built between 1969 and 1971, well before the potential dangers of asbestos were known. But the cancer-causing effects of airborne asbestos are well chronicled now. That's why workers who began removing flame retardant material here today are especially trained for a project where the potential dangers can't be overestimated.
Here it's being handled the district is handling it in a very careful, sensitive way. They brought us in to oversee the process from a public health perspective. They've got one of the most sophisticated removal firms really in the state, handling that part of it. Every plumber, every electrician, every laborer on the job goes through some basic orientation, and we're watching all the time.
Students who have attended Central have not been exposed to any health risk. It's only when the asbestos particles become airborne that a health risk is present. That's why special equipment and monitoring devices will occupy spaces usually reserved for textbooks and classrooms.
The removal is a very, very sensitive operation. And it's a balance. You can't really just go in and get it all out. It doesn't work that way. You increase the contamination, so it has to be done in a studied, cautious pattern.
Officials involved in the cleanup of the material here say it's impossible to tell just how much asbestos was used in fireproofing this building. But it is not hard to say that a safety-first policy has been initiated. The building will be closed throughout the summer to anyone not involved in the asbestos removal project. At Central High School, Jeff Potts, Channel 3 News.
Those who attended this year's DFL convention might have thought they stumbled into an IR gathering. There was an amazing lack of controversy, and delegates selected the candidates everyone thought they would. However, independent Republicans say their convention will be very different.
Within that conservative party, there are some wide extremes of conservatism. It's from the fundamentalist to the more progressive, and no one is quite certain who's going to fall in the middle of all that.
Duluth legislator Ben Booz says there's a strong movement by Republicans who call themselves social conservatives or the religious right, and their support of candidate Mike Menning will be tested at this weekend's convention, along with the IR party's unity.
Well, it's interesting enough because, right, traditionally the DFL's had as wide a spectrum of philosophies, and this year it's in the Republican Party, and we're going to find out, I think, this time how strong the fundamental movement is in the Republican Party, backing, of course, Mr. Menning. If he's got the strength, then I think his strength is wavering a bit now, and that could throw the whole affair into an uproar.
If your question is, will they be divisive in the end, support the opposition, sit on their hands, or whatever, no, they won't. And they are not as far right or far extreme or so on that they're often painted to be, because I know, as I say, I know lots of these people, and they're anything but lunatic fringe. They're your neighbors that you see at PTAs and so on.
Fiscally conservative Republicans are backing House Speaker David Jennings. Cal Ludeman is seen as a possible compromise candidate. But Bloomington Mayor James Lindau is running without the IR endorsement. He's seen as a dark horse, and nobody is willing to call the winner. John Schottel, Channel 3 News.